a mistake. You never try to hold me back when I have.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Autism. In this segment, I also have two professionals that work in the field of special education. I have an occupational therapist, and I also have a parent and a tutor in the field of special education. All right, let me now allow my guests to introduce themselves to us.
Hi everyone, I'm Zoe Daniels, an occupational therapist.
Hi everyone, I'm Irene Ali and I'm a parent for a special needs child and a tutor too.
Awesome. Thank you for being here with us on Let's Talk Autism. Now, Miss Irene, I know you have a daughter with autism, all right? Tell us a little bit of how you entered the autism world, so to speak.
Well, first, I've got a typical child that, normal come into the world. She's pretty cute and everything and didn't, know as she developed. And as the age goes by and the time goes by, I didn't realize she was special or she have any difficulty understanding. But then as the time goes by, I had to get, intervention, like find out from people and then realize she wasn't doing the things that she used like a normal child would do.
So at what age did you realize she was falling back in terms of her developmental milestone?
Like a year, less than a year. She wasn't talking, she wasn't walking. So she wasn't doing the normal thing. And I still didn't understand because I thought she was just like a slow child or a slow baby. So I still didn't know. And I still don't know the autism in the whole process.
Okay.
Until I guess when her age gap for school. And still I didn't know what is autism. I just keep thinking maybe you have speech delay or, all those things. So it was like difficult because I never had the knowledge and understanding what autism was all about.
All right. So you're saying like for you, your entrance into the autism world was kind of like a surprise.
Yes.
And that's how it is for most parents. It's not that, they prepare and know ahead of time that they will have a child with autism. It just sprung upon many parents like that, and we have to adjust to meeting the needs of those children. All right. So how old is your daughter now?
She's 16.
Oh, wow. So during the course of our discussion, we will learn more about you and your daughter, Soraya, right?
Yes.
Awesome. So here, Miss Zoe Daniels, you said you are an occupational therapist.
Correct.
How really do you support learners with autism?
Okay, so that is a very interesting question. So as an occupational therapist, first, before I answer your question, let me explain to you and the public what exactly is occupational therapy. And occupational therapy may be defined as a individualized therapy treatment.
Okay.
So we look at the person, whether it be an adult or a child, and we try our best to assess. That is where we're going to observe, look for all the red flags. And from there, we are going to set goals.
Okay.
And these goals are set with long-term and short. So from that now, we would say, okay, this is what is happening. This is what we want to accomplish. And like I said, it's individualized. So what works for Peter may not work for Jane.
All right.
Right? And to come back to your question, here is where we would, our main focus, our main function basically is to modify and adapt for them to become independent.
Okay.
Or to the most functional towards not just their daily livings, but to life.
Awesome. Right, because there's no cure for autism. As a matter of fact, scientists are still struggling to tell us exactly what causes autism.
Correct.
So we can't yet find a cure for autism, right? But even with that, we want to make sure our children with autism can still live and function to the best of their ability. So what are some interventions you would do with a child who has autism when they come visit you?
So you see, autism, it has different spectrums, right? Or as persons would know it as ASD. And with that now, we have some with sensory issues. And there's where, as an occupational therapist, you would create the sensory integration activities. So for some children, they might have sensory problems with food. So as an occupational therapist, we would look at a sensory diet. So some children might be sensitive towards soft, squishy foods, for example, like a banana. And banana is very high in potassium. They need that for growth, right? And then some children, they might not like the cream in a biscuit, or they might not like the biscuit because maybe the biscuit is too rough against the gum or the tongue. Or so we would have a sensory diet where we would inform the parents, okay, let's try this method of food. Let's try this method of food. And with that, now a whole sensory diet is created, because you might have 3 children. For example, your daughter with autism, she might not be liking the middle of the banana with the seeds, but your son might like the part with the seeds. So there is where now with the sensory diet, as a parent or as a therapist, we would have to say, okay, this is what our child like, this is what the child don't like. And you just create the foods that they will eat according to their sensation.
Wow. Now you got me thinking, Zoe, because I know in my family, my daughter, she said she don't like the skin of the bread. She call it the skin. All right. I mean, and that's not something that we practice at home.
These the bread and
Right. They just don't like it. Perhaps now I'm thinking that maybe it's a sensory reaction she's having to that kind of thing,
the texture, how it feels in the hand, or maybe how it feels when you bite it on the gum.
Oh wow.
Or maybe when you're chewing, that feeling on the teeth.
Okay, and I know I'm glad you were raising that, because in the previous segment, we spoke a lot about language delay and so on. So we're seeing that when we talk about autism, it's not just language, it's not just behavior, we're having the sensory part added to it now. And there's some children, they would cry, and when you realize it's the tag at the back of the shirt causing some sort of sensory reaction and so on. So we got to be aware of all these triggers that our children can have.
Yes, so with the sensory issues outdoors, we have sand, grass, mud, concrete. And as a therapist, I have a little sensory corner where I would have the child test the different surfaces. So with this now, you're trying to get them accustomed to all the different textures that they would be using in their daily life, because at home, mom and daddy's yard might be concrete, and that is what they're accustomed to. But when you take them to the gardens, for example, we had Easter, and the gardens is not concrete, the garden is sand or grass. So you would want to gradually introduce them to a different texture, versus if you have like a craft activity at school and they might need to use clay or mud. So you want to get them to, just play with it with their fingers, get the foot bottom in the sand and so on. So those are different sensory activities that as a therapist I would do, right? And apart from just those sensories to touch, what persons are not quite familiar with is the sensory with the balance. We call it vestibular. And the vestibular sense of balance, there is where the child, you might see them rocking back and forth, or they might be swaying side to side, or some children might just be flipping or, flapping their hands. Some might, like if they're hot, or some of them might go on their toes. And so those are different signs that you would see a child with autism is doing. And what we will do is introduce them to a hammock or a swing. So you put them in that swing and you gradually swing them to calm them. So if you find that you have an autistic child who might be going up on the toes and flapping, just get a little hammock and just swing them, not too fast. That's gonna slowly calm them down, and you can sing. There's where now you can introduce the singing, or reading a book. You can use a rocking chair, right? So those are different sensory tips that you can use. Introduce them to different things, not just the food, but this is Guyana, we got everything. So that's how we can help.
In the classroom, Zoe, we have children who might have autism and other disabilities. They find it difficult to sit and to focus for a long period of time. So do you recommend that, in the classroom we have things like fidgets in our classroom?
Yes. Fidgets are very, very helpful. And for me, not only for autistics, but I mean, when I'm nervous, I would use a fidget. We have the fidget that we can twist. We have fidgets that we can just bounce or we can, pull on a string. We have, even apart from fidgets, we have calming blankets. So they're weighted vests or weighted blankets that they can put around the shoulder. You can rest it up on the lap. And that is going to help to calm them down. Some persons or some children are sensitive to touch. Some of them like that deep touch. So what you can do if you notice that your child likes to throw a tantrum, you just hold them and give them a nice, firm grip. Don't squeeze too hard, but you just give them that squeeze, like mommy's here, daddy's here, everything is fine. Give them that touch, right? So it's not just like touching. Some persons are so sensitive to touch that if you come up to them just to touch the hair, it's like you trigger everything, right? So fidgets are really helpful in the classroom. You can use it even while traveling.
Yes.
Persons will travel maybe by plane or by boat, and they might not like that sensation when the plane is taking off. So you give them that fidget and they can either wrap it around their fingers or whatnot. And apart from the fidgets and the blankets, we also have some chewables, right? Where you can, I can remember in primary school, I don't know if my friends did it for fun or maybe they had some sort of sensory issue, but can you ever remember seeing children with a pencil top bite off? Or just chewy?
Yes.
So there are chewables that parents will purchase as well. And the latest trend now is this pop-up. They're bringing, if you go on Amazon or even right here in Guyana, you're seeing these pop-up. It comes now in shapes of a purse or a star, or where you're just pushing through.
And you get that sensation.
Yes,
from
correct.
And that reminds me of those bubble wraps we used to get, or we still get in packages, because we use that. So for parents who are not able to afford, these fidgets, you could, when you look at packaging, you get those.
Like when you purchase, popping maybe stuff. A dinnerware set or a glass set, that plastic. Some children, the sound that they get from that popping actually calms them.
Wow.
So that is something that you can work with. Yes.
Wow. Miss Annie, let me come over to you again. Now, you have been in this world for 16 years. All right? What would you tell a parent, or what was one of the things you would do different now, with your daughter?
Okay, for the first thing I would tell a parent, like if you see your child is not developing the way it is supposed to be developed, the first thing you look for an intervention or a diagnose. Somebody could diagnose them, and that's where you can start help them, that as long as you get the diagnosis and early intervention, what really works. So if a child gets early into the intervention, it could help a child to live a more full life. It may not be 100% what we're looking at for parents, but the child could, slowly develop and do more things better in an environment which, they could be so familiar with. You introduce them to people, which most children with autism is like, they do not socialize.
Correct.
So if we could get them to socialize, so if I could change back the hands on time and go back to when she was like 2 years or 3, I would have do that. So as parents, we need to help our children. If we don't start, they're not going to get nowhere. We're supposed to be their teacher before they go to teaching level. So we got to be the teacher, the doctor, the nurse, and their everything. So if I could do that differently, I would go back and do all of those things. So gradually, it starts from home. So,
but experience teaches wisdom. And your experience with wisdom now, you can empower other people.
So I wish and could tell all parents, you want to help your child starting. The first thing you do, toilet training. The first thing, help them eat with, practice spoon, practice the thing that is difficult for them. You have to start it at home, because even if you send them to school, teacher's gonna work so much, but then they go home back and they're not practicing the same thing that the teacher teach them, and it becomes difficult when they go back out there. So parents, work on your child. You're the first teacher. If you could do that, there goes. You help your child.
Good. So when we get the students from the first teachers, now it caused me to wonder, what was your experience when they went to their school teacher? What was your experience in the school system?
It was like challenging, but because I had my child, it was like I'll start off. I'm just like voluntarily helping all these kids. I'm showering them with love. I'm trying to calm them down, hug them, kiss them, being nice, and eventually, gradually, it grew. And actually, I really didn't want to be a teacher. I was never cut out to be a teacher, but because of my child, she kind of motivated me, so I help other kids.
And that's the same thing with a lot of parents, you know. Having been exposed to the real life experience of their children, they gravitate to the field of special education and supporting learners with disability. Even as we bring this conversation to an end, Zoe, I know you work at the diagnostic center we have here in Guyana, but there's not so many therapists in Guyana. How do you stretch yourself to, provide service to all these children? How do you do it?
Well, I do the best I can.
Okay.
At the center there, I will do the assessment. I see what is wrong, set my goals, talk to the parents, let them know what I'm doing. And after each session, I report to them. This is what we did today. This was our success. This is what I want for you to work with. And I always tell my parents, work with me and you'll see the results faster. So if today we worked on holding the toothbrush in this position, today we did brushing the teeth, or today we just looked at getting to pick up the toothbrush from here to positioning it. If that is what we're working on today, you go home, try this, and that is how we work.
And I know with all kinds of intervention, consistency is key. So parents, once you discover that your child has a disability, once they're in therapy, even if it's speech therapy, if occupational therapy, be consistent so that they can benefit from those training. Children with autism, they become adults with autism, but if we consistently give them the support that they need, they can live a life that is rewarding, a life that is fulfilling. So all children can learn, regardless of their disability label. So we want to encourage you to support your children, ensure that they're in school, they're receiving the services that are available to them. In Guyana here, we have the Special Education Needs Unit at NSERT, and we also have the Diagnostic Center at Turkai that you can reach out to so that your child can receive all the support that they need to live a successful and complete life, even if they have a diagnosis of autism. Thank you for joining us on this segment of Let's Talk Autism.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Oh. I smile, I laugh, I cry the same as you. And even when it's hot or when it's cold, you know that I can feel it too. I may have meltdowns every day, but then you know just what to say, you do. And with my triggers start to play, you figured out a way to keep them all at bay. It's true. And even when you wanna cry inside, you encourage me each time I try. When bad days seem to come my way, a smiling face can change the day. 'Cause though I'm autistic, you've been optimistic. You never try to hold me back. When I have troubles, you're there on the double, keeping me on track. I live in a world much different than yours. Don't blame me for my actions when thoughts I cannot put into words.